The Accidental Realtor. Sometimes success happens by accident. You're listening to the latest episode of The Accidental Realtor with Chuck Gallup and Steve Smith. I can't vouch for all the episodes, but this one's pretty good.
Hey world, welcome to another episode of The Accidental Realtor. Steve, this is episode 12. Do you believe we've done 12 of these?
I don't believe it. It's gone by so quick. It seems like it's episode 4 or 5, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give you 6. I will say episode 6. The value we are bringing to the world is honestly changing the world.
Yeah, I think pretty soon we'll be competing with the likes of Joe Rogan. Ton of information to be had from our podcast. And honestly, we've had some very interesting people and have had some pretty interesting topics that we've gone over.
Today's guest is going to be really exciting. I'm really excited to get his take on some very pressing, urgent industry stuff, which I want to get into. Because some stuff has dropped a lot recently. We talk every week about interest rates and market shift and everything going on. But I think the theme right now is the market and real estate brokerages and consolidation. And we talked about this, I think, probably 2 or 3 episodes in a row. We're just diving right in here, by the way. We have nothing for you people in banter because I want to get really to this important stuff. The whole industry is consolidating over and over and over. And the biggest news was just yesterday when Real Brokerage, which is an offshoot of eXp Realty, which, by the way, which is where Steve and I, that's our brokerage. Real Brokerage just acquired RE/MAX. The whole RE/MAX franchise, all the names out there, whether it's, in Minnesota, Advantage, Results, maybe there's Premier, all of them have been sold out. That company's been around since 1973, founded on brick and mortar, because that's what it was back then. And they have been fighting and pushing and kicking and saying, we need brick and mortar. Enough of this online virtual brokerage like eXp and Real and LPT. Well, guess what? They just got bought out. What's going to happen? What's your take on all this, Steve?
Yeah, I don't know. Head's still spinning on that. To your point of when RE/MAX was founded, I mean, they've always been one of the big, big name brokers, not just in Minnesota, but I think nationally recognized. And to have a brokerage like Real, who hasn't been around all that long, acquire them, it's like, wow, where did this come from? And I really, to your point, I can't wait to get Russ's take on that. I don't know. I don't know the answers to all of this, but you're right. It does seem like consolidation is kind of the name of the game now. And we'll see how this bears out, I think, in the coming weeks and months. But, what was the rationale for it? What did Real have to gain? What did RE/MAX have to gain? What effect does that have on us at eXp or other agents at other brokerages? So fascinating stuff.
Yeah, they're at like 150,000 agents, which eclipses eXP's size. You take all their agents, put them together. Real was maybe at 25, maybe 40. They were growing, so it's hard to say where they're at. And now they acquired all of RE/MAX. So that is going to be incredibly interesting to see what happens. And I've listened to some pundits talk about what it's about, and they were saying it's not about transaction count. It's not about dollars. It's about leverage. And with this whole thing that we've talked about a couple of weeks in a row, with off-market pocket listings that your brokerage owns that you can market. If you're a consumer and you want to sell your house, if you go with Compass, you've got 500,000 agents you can get that in front of. If you go with RE/MAX, you've got 150,000 agents you can give that to. That's one of our value propositions. We've got 85,000 agents. Very, very interesting stuff. I'm really curious to see where this goes.
Yeah, especially when seemingly you've got 2 brokerages on the opposite sides of the spectrum, right? One that's a virtual brokerage and one, to your point, that seems like it's always fought it. They're the old brick and mortar. How does that mesh up? What do you do with the agents that are old school RE/MAX that don't embrace maybe some of the things that Real had to offer and vice versa? Because it just on paper didn't seem like the 2 of them really kind of aligned all that well. So
there are some absolute dinosaurs, honestly, at some of these legacy brokerages that they don't want anything to do with tech. They don't want any of that. They've been around for 35, 40 years. It's foreign to them. So I'm really curious what that does. And I agree. I think it is really about leverage. And I'm curious who's left I mean, it's really Keller Williams and Coldwell Banker, and maybe some of these more regional areas like or regional brokerages like Edina Realty.
Right.
And I'm curious how they do. I've said Coldwell and Edina are just, frankly, kind of outdated models. Sorry if you work there. But I'm curious what they now do, and it's really interesting. I've had a Remax broker that owns a bunch of franchises that always calls me and tries to recruit me. And his value proposition is we are not virtual. We can give you things that no one else can, but the messaging becomes really mixed because Remax needs brokerages. They need buildings. And that's their value proposition. That's a big line item. And that's something we always talk about at EXP and all the other virtual brokerages. We get rid of that whole line item. We get the whole middle strata of your line items and get rid of it, instantly making you more profitable.
It does get deep though. So a lot of us, and Chuck, you weren't originally with EXP, and neither was I. And for the longest time, I thought having an office was more important to me than what it turned out to be. But I'm not going to discount the importance of an office. And you and I had discussions that even with the agents that are at EXP, how many of them? I'd be curious to know how many of them do have offices, brick and mortar locations that they choose to either buy or rent. So I find that whole little sub discussion fascinating as well, right? To the point where you get an acquisition, Real acquires Remax. Does that actually, fit a niche or kind of a calling out of some of the real estate agents who loved or loves the brokerage, but felt that maybe they wanted some brick and mortar locations? I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, long ways to go. I'm really curious what happens. While we wait for our guest, I want to talk about this little gash on my forehead. And you can't see it because I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, but I got a nice gash on my arm. I had a client today that I was showing a home to, and they have the pull down ladder stairs into the attic. And we are trying to figure out if he could move a wall. So we need to figure out what a vent pipe for a fireplace was coming out of. And the best way to do it was going through the attic. And there were the stairs. So I pulled down the stairs. I start walking up to peek my head up there. The heaviest ladder, tallest ceiling that I've ever dealt with. I mean, it's probably a 15-foot walk, 15-foot ladder. That 15-foot ladder came crashing down on my head. How I did not need stitches is beyond me. Just about knocked me silly. So I've got that to cope with today. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, people that say that it's an easy job, it's not always the case. It can be physically perilous. Whether it's ladders coming down and hitting you in the head, happened to you, or like in the wintertime here in Minnesota, slipping on ice that's in the driveway or walkways of homes. It's very common occurrence.
I had an agent on my team that was showing a house and had an iPad. I think you know this story. And she was walking along showing her clients the outside of the house, and she was looking at her iPad, and she fell into a window well.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Folded up like a I don't even know what, and broke her back. So I went to visit her in the hospital. She had a broken back. And then for the next 3 months, she had one of those back braces. Yeah, that was tough. That was a tough one.
Yep. Got to make sure that we have insurance in this job. That's for sure.
Going to change gears. We always talk about a funny, wacky real estate story. And I want to talk about one recently. So I had a family emergency, a death in the family, someone very, very close to me. And you were with me, actually. We were at a conference. And I had a client that had been selling her house. And this, I'm telling you, had been the smoothest transaction I have had in a year. Everything was wonderful. I mean, we went on the market, really easy marketing, a few minor issues getting ready, no big deal. And we were under contract within 2 days, over asking, really easygoing buyer, great agent on the other side. Titles, companies were getting along. This was a piece of cake. And this seller thought that everything was going wrong. I mean, I could do nothing right. And you and I were in Vancouver at a conference. We had basically just landed, doing our first sightseeing tour before the thing kicks off the next day. Get a call asking about minutia about this transaction. My response was, and I had literally, you were there, found out that someone very close to me had died. And I said, I will get to this, just FYI. someone very close to me has passed away. I may be difficult to reach. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but you need to connect me with someone who can help me because I blah 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 blah.
Yes.
And I've talked before about this, and I think you have too, that there is so much that happens in this industry where the people don't care, and I get that because frankly we're there to do a job. We should do it and do it well. But it's crazy to me the lack of humanity of some people as well, and how they handle that.
No, that's true. I remember that well. You're right. It was literally right after we landed and got off the plane. You were dealing with that, and very little empathy. And I know we had that discussion that the client's needs, they're paramount, and what they're dealing with, their perceptions, their reality, and we understand that. But I think it just goes to show how difficult our job can be sometimes. I made the comment about you getting hurt today with the ladder that hit you in the head, and your agent who broke their back falling into the windowsill. But yeah, it was crazy to me because you were sharing with me this communication you were having with the seller, and the seller, by most standards, had no reason to be upset. Should have been happy, but was choosing to be unhappy and choosing to make issues out of things that shouldn't have been made an issue out of. And it was hard. I think it's hard for any agent in normal circumstances, let alone what you were going through at the time. That was tough.
It's funny. You see the worst of people, and you and I both were in a career with high stress. The stress of real estate eclipses anything I did in law enforcement. I'm talking dead bodies, people getting shot, people screaming, the worst moments of their lives. Real estate's worse. It's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy to me.
I've got a number of clients that I share this with, and they get such a kick out of it when I say this, but I mean it when I say it. I would rather deal with an active shooter, in a law enforcement scenario, responding to a person with a gun that's, shooting rounds off, than deal with some of the stuff we deal with in law enforcement, or excuse me, in real estate. You're right. I do think it's more stressful in real estate than our job ever was.
I always say it's kind of the same
and
job.
Probably to some extent. Yeah, you still get shot at. You're not law enforcement.
Yeah. It's so true. All right, well, let's get our guest here. He's been patiently waiting in the green room. The next guy is a very well-known speaker within EXP. His new book is out, Be Followable. It's a great book. He'll talk about it, I'm sure. And he is the vice president of growth for EXP Realty. We've had a lot of EXP people on, but this guy's a treat. I want to open the welcome mat and let in the amazing Russ Laggan. Russ.
Russ. Hello.
What's going on?
Love the look,
guys.
Yeah, I forgot you have your own LED lighting. It's pretty fancy.
It's like spiffy, huh? I try to look fancy once in a while.
I never show it off. But
there you go. Look at that.
We take our swag very seriously here at the Accidental Realtor. What can I say?
Good times, baby. Good times.
Yeah. So, before you got here, and we're just going to dive right in.
Let's go.
You are just a presence at all the conferences. I was just telling a story about Vancouver, unrelated to the actual conference, kind of a funny one or a sad one, depending on your perspective. And I mean, you're just such a presence at these conferences. And I got an opportunity to meet you when EXP Realty rang the bell at NASDAQ, and we all got to party in the NASDAQ suite.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
Just meeting everyone and then spending the week with leadership that week for me was just really profound.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've been promoted a number of times since then, but you were very involved, pretty high up in the company at that point.
Yeah.
Your down to earth mentality and your relatability are just second to none.
It's funny because people, they just assume certain things. A lot of people make a lot of assumptions based on titles and so forth, and how do you get to where you go? And it's obvious I didn't sleep my way to the top. Not pretty enough, but so with that said, I actually had to have skills. Kidding, of course. Corporate joke, guys. Corporate joke. That was supposed to be funny. Okay. So
hey, for what it's worth, I slept your way to the top, so it's okay.
I did sleep my way.
And I could vouch for that
every night. I go to bed every night around midnight and get up at whenever I get up. And but yeah, so the thing is, Chuck, I'm just Russ, I'm just me. I don't know who else to be. I think when I learned to lean into being the best me was when that was a real shift. It's like, I don't have to be this, I don't have to be this super polished, super stuffy, super everything's PC. It's like, I'm just Russ, man. Let's have a freaking good time. If you're not having fun doing it, you're doing it wrong. That's been my mantra for a bunch of years, right? So, like, if you got to do something for a living, you might as well have fun doing it. Can I make way more money selling houses? Yeah, but selling houses didn't fill my soul like doing what I do now. So I think what most people are seeing in me is the passion and enthusiasm and the love for what I do and the love for how it makes me feel. And of course, I always dress super conservative, so I blend in. And that seems to help me well too.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, his trademark is the vest. The vest.
I may have a vest or 12 or 50.
Yeah, 12 in today's rotation. Yeah.
Yes.
He went swimming in a pool in the vest. We haven't seen the electric vest, but I know that's coming at some point.
Gotta be one. I'm just gonna get that plugged into my vest. Yeah, it's good.
That's a good
Yeah,
look.
but I think, and that's part of the brand too, which is kind of funny because I've had a look, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna kind of go do something different. Somebody's like, what are you, stupid? Like I could cut your head off, let your torso walk into the room, and everybody's like, that's Russ. Like, if I walk into a room with a t-shirt and a hat on, with a brim pulled down and no glasses on, I can slip through some rooms, right? But as soon as I throw this on, dude, I'm going nowhere. There and no sneaking nowhere. It became part of the brand and like being known for something. I'm also known for being super articulate and passionate about what I'm doing and being a little feisty. And I may cuss a little bit here and there. I'm Midwestern, baby. Midwestern, baby.
All of the above. So true.
Yeah.
Well, before you got here, we were talking about this whole Remax reel thing.
Yeah.
And just to kind of bring you in on the truth bombs we were throwing. We were just talking about some people's take on this is that it may not be about dollars and cents. It's about leverage. And with all this pocket listing stuff. So really want to dig into what this does for the consumer, first of all. And we'll get to what it does the industry and EXP. But what does it do to the consumer when all this consolidation just keeps happening? All these big giants are acquiring and trading and combining.
Well,
what's your take?
So my take is hardware stores.
Okay.
How many mom and pop hardware stores do you see these days? None, right?
Yeah.
Is that better or is that worse, right? I'll tell you, in some ways it's worse, in some ways it's better. It's better in that you can get a little bit of everything at the big box store, right? The worst part is I didn't have Steve, who had a house in the 1950s, who's probably 400 years old, looks like Yoda. But you walk in and you're like, hey, man, I got 1953 Kohler toilet, Elgin toilet, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, you mean the one with the rectangle back on it? I'm like, yeah, I need a gasket. And the guy's like, hold on a sec, I'll be right back. And he goes, 4 hours later, taking a half an hour to take a step. Like, can I pick you up and put you on my back and just steer me like a goat? And that guy knows where everything, like nobody else knows where everything, but he knows where everything is and whatever. So there's some of that mom and pop feel that you lose. I think when consumers have less choices, that's not better for consumers a lot of times. Less competition isn't always better for consumers across the board. Not that we could price fix even with 3 or 4 or 5, a lot of people saying, there's going to be 5 left standing when it's said and done. And most of them are going to have a cloud-based component to it. Yeah, I mean, so, I texted somebody very high up in the company. I'm name dropping here. But I texted somebody, I'm like, all I can picture is a cloud lassoed to a balloon, lassoed to 5,000 buildings, which are bolted to the ground. So, like, did the buildings just get set free to the cloud, or did the cloud just get lassoed to the dirt?
Uh-huh.
My take, very direct, is you really can't get a whole lot of different culture there. Do we have some Remax agents that do really well when they come over to cloud brokerage? Hell yeah, absolutely. Do we have a lot that start to save a bunch of money when they do that? Yeah, absolutely. Permit me a tirade for another second or two. If I was anybody in Remax right now and a Remax agent being like, wait a minute, if we're going to be using their technology, why don't I just move over to the real side? So I think, unfortunately, this is one of those scenarios where what happens when you throw 5 alligators in a pit? Some alligators get eaten,
Yeah.
right? Some
Yeah.
alligators get eaten, and not always the big one, right? Sometimes a small one, sometimes a big one, right? So the question of the day now becomes, my play as a real agent, as a real company, should have been like, okay, guys, policy is you're not allowed to poach Remax agents. Just straight across the board, you cannot poach Remax agents. I don't think there's any way to enforce that because they're all 1099 agents. I think if I was a real agent right now, I'd be thinking, hey, I'm just going to call every freaking Remax agent and see if I can start stacking and packing my downline and get them to move. But then now you're cutting the throats of all the franchisees.
Mm-hmm.
So the franchisor set up a scenario where the franchisor wins, the franchisees lose, guaranteed they lose. I mean, aside from the ones that had some stock, they had a nice little buyout, which is cool. But the franchisees themselves typically aren't in the corporate system, so forth, because they're franchisees. They're doing their own thing. They're kind of independent under the franchise, and they stand to lose almost everything. And oh yeah, by the way, they didn't choose this. Oh yeah, and by the way, their agents are now going to be more upset. Oh yeah, and by the way, the ones that were on the fence before are now seriously looking. So could they have straight up dismantled, and will they straight up dismantle their own purchase? I can't see how it wouldn't. I know how agents act. Shoot, it was all over Facebook. They're like, oh, everybody needs to go whale hunting. Like, listen, guys, if you didn't have a relationship with a human being in either one of those companies prior to this, you've got no right to pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah.
You're just making it yucky and gross. Like they're like, reach out to your local Remax agent and ask them how they feel about this. Like, who the flying F are you? Who the flying flip-flop are you to ask me what I think about anything? Like, my response, none of your freaking business. That's what every single one of those Remax agents should be saying right now. It's none of your damn business. You didn't take the time to build a relationship with me over the last 6 years. Why the hell would I talk to you about any of this? It's none of your damn business. Oh, hey, Steve, how's your marriage? None of your business. Similar type
I happen to know how it's going.
Yeah, I mean,
one thing I want to dial into is you brought up the hardware store, and I had not thought of that because I'm going to take a little metaphor from that. So,
yeah.
Most hardware stores you go into, you walk in looking for that little knobby you were describing.
Yes.
And used to have the old guy who would open up the little plastic drawer and go, here's your knobby, 43 cents. Go to the front counter, write it in pencil, and you ring it up. Yeah. That is not a profitable model for a hardware store. It's not a survivable model for a hardware store. No. So now I go to Home Depot and I buy a bag of 20 of the little knobbies.
Yep.
And it costs me an extra $2 because they buy it in bulk.
Yep.
And that's a more profitable model. I get that. So I respect. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense.
So, is it a bad thing? No. Is it a different thing? Sure. Are there some upsides and downs? Like, here's the thing, man. Everybody's like, this is the and then whatever garbage they're spitting out of their pie hole. And I'm like, guys, there's 2 sides, 3 sides, 5 sides to everyone, 20 sides to every one of these stories, right? So the franchisees see it one way. The franchisor sees it another way. The purchaser sees it one way. The agents under the purchaser see it another way. The stock market sees it one way. On the Remax side, the stock market saw it really different on the real side. Like, all of the agents are real, like, this is amazing. I'm like, you just took a 25% freaking haircut on all your stock. I would not be jumping up and down about that myself.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know. We're digging that too. Why do you think real stock fell? It's counterintuitive to me.
I'm not a financial wizard, and I do not pretend to be one on TV. However, this vest gives me some rights to say whatever I want. I mean, the best my understanding is of the way markets work. Remax just announced that they were bought and they just dumped a bunch of debt. And the investors are like, hell yeah, man. This thing's got a shot at actually making cash now. Put cash in the pocket. And then the real side, the investors behind Real and around Real are going like, they just inherited $550 million worth of debt paper. They borrowed $550 million at 15%. Sorry. That made some things move funny, saying it out loud, right? Like 15% on $550 million. We've got buyers right now in our real estate market that are like, oh, I'm not buying a house at 7%. And Real's like 15% interest rate. Smack my mother. Let me have another. What? Yeah, I'm just going crazy. Like $550 million at 15%. That's shark territory, right? So, like, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't loan them $550 million at 25% interest rate for a deal like that, because it just doesn't make sense how you can blend the two. You got oil and water.
You might have just answered a question for me, Russ, but with you being VP of growth, does consolidation spur consolidation? I mean, when something like this happens in the
Yeah,
industry, in your
yeah,
opinion, are there other brokerages that are thinking
yeah,
about it?
absolutely. So, well, I mean, Compass started this. I mean, at least the Compass Anywhere merger, it makes more sense because they were more graduated scale commission model versus graduated scale commission models. They were higher split models, higher service models across the board. So that one actually kind of makes more sense. It's like, we got a bunch of Ferrari drivers and they're going to hang out with the Lamborghini guys. That's cool. But like, you don't have the Prius guys hanging out with the Lamborghini guys, right? So not that either one of those companies don't get all weird and somebody can get butthurt. You just called me it's not that. It's just like the Ford crew is not getting invited to the exotic car meet, right? That's just not the way it works. So you've got fundamentally different things. And I think in this one it's more cars and bicycles in some ways, right? Um, you've got the ultimate newest school going with the ultimate old school, right? Remax has been around a long time. It's a long established institution. It's bricks and mortar built on local territories, built on local markets, built on local personalities, built on a protectionist type of system for the franchisees versus the cloud, which is literally free for all, right? Show me the walls on the cloud. They don't have them. Right. So, what are the restrictions with the cloud? There are no restrictions. What are restrictions within a Remax office? Typically, the limitation is how far is an agent willing to drive to get to your leadership. Where now they can be like, wait a minute, I can have leadership anywhere in the country. I can have leadership anywhere in the world. You tell me what the perspective is, and the perspective is depending on which side of the die you're facing. Is it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 20-sided? Could be a 20-sided die on this one, really. There's probably at least 20 different perspectives, and all of them have pluses and minuses.
What is your take on clear cooperation? I mean, we talked on the last podcast.
Yeah.
We had Holly Mayberry actually,
Yeah.
but we talked a lot about clear cooperation and what's happening with Compass acquiring now 500,000 agents, largest single brokerage in the universe. So,
Well, two things. Number one, I feel very, very strongly about this. Number two, I am so glad I'm in a brokerage that feels the same way I do. If Leo Pareja and Holly Mabry stood up and started saying, we think having our own private exclusives is going to be the direction we want to go, I would be automatically standing up and being like, "Oh, hang on a second, guys." Like, I'll sit in the C group meeting. I'll be like, "I'm a formal protest right here, guys." Like, literally, that's a deal breaker. That's a nonstop. That's a that's a non-breaking. That's an integrity thing for me. Like, my integrity can't allow me to sit in front of a seller, Chuck, and say to them, without them prompting it. Now, if it's a lawyer, if it's a judge, if it's a high-level politician, super public person, or a super private person, I could totally understand. There's a place for a private listing, right? There are times when private listings make sense. There's times when just going straight to a hedge fund absolutely makes sense, right? But for the average person, which is 95 plus probably percent of sellers out there, all the studies show that more eyeballs and more buyer pool means higher prices. More competition always means higher prices in our industry, right? Now, Compass comes out with a study and they're like, well, a study was done that shows that some exclusive private listings actually sell for more than they would have if in the MLS. Okay, great. So you're taking this minuscule little shitbox cross section, right? You take a minuscule, crappy cross section and then use that to extrapolate. It doesn't scale, right? So listen, like if they go to scale, let's take this through, okay? Kind of spicy, okay? Let's take this through to its logical conclusion. Everything ends up in private. Everything ends up in private exclusives. Well, that means nothing's in private exclusives. Like when everything's important, nothing's important. When nothing's important, nothing's important, right? So you go into a scenario where it's like all the properties are in well, then that becomes the next one, right? So nobody will ever answer me, and I've asked this question a bunch. Nobody will ever answer me. Explain to me how this makes any sense at all for you to destroy the industry by doing it. This isn't just harming sellers, which it is. This is harming sellers and harming the industry. So now we're going to have a scenario where I'm showing buyers a property. Okay, so the buyer's like, well, Russ, I just bought this property over here. You didn't tell me that property was available. I'm like, I didn't know that property is available. So now do I have to, as a real estate expert, know which 7, 8, 9, 10 different resources any particular house could be in any particular spot? We're kicking ourselves into the commercial real estate world.
Yeah.
Commercial real
I
estate
was
world
just
has
gonna
most
say
of
that.
its stuff. They have most of their stuff in the one program, but then there's all these other little sub programs, and everybody's got their little circles around their wagons and holding their freaking, holding their little teacup. Don't touch my tea, right? And you got the good old boys club that circle the wagons and don't let other people in outside inside. And if you're in this county, I'm controlling this county, and you can't touch it. If you're not doing business in our county, this is our county. Like, do we really want to be in a business like that?
I think it makes us look bad too, because the consumers
Yes.
are, as we know, do their own searches. So
Yes.
they start looking. Here we are, the dinosaurs looking at the MLS, and we use Real Scout, so we use that too.
Yeah.
But they're all looking at Zillow, but they're also
Sure.
looking at Realtor.com. So they may see some stuff we never sent them. They go, "Why didn't you?" Like, to your point, why didn't you send this to me?
Well, wait until the buyer buys a property and then finds out 5 months later that another property that was their dream home was actually available, and you didn't show it to them. And they'll be like, "We bought this house. This wasn't our number one choice. We would have bought that house. And by the way, this house actually didn't go up in value as much. Now I'm feeling slighted, and I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue you because we didn't get." I mean,
I'm going to call my E&O insurance and just up that.
Yeah, totally, right? Or the seller's like, if I was the DOJ right now, and I'm not, but if I was them, I'd be like sitting back going, let's watch how this plays out. Let's see how many people they get to do this. And then when we can actually go back and say, all of these studies show that when you don't get full market exposure, you sell for less dollars. And if that proves out to be true, now you've got a class action lawsuit, and like we all set ourselves up to get sued again. It's like, nobody can convince me that this isn't the most self-serving, I'm looking out for my own company move than any other move I've seen in this real estate industry. And this is catastrophic size, because they're like doubling down on something that makes no sense. Listen, guys, you guys are guys, like you guys both married?
Yep.
You ever get in an argument with your wife and about halfway through you realize you're wrong?
Mm.
And you're like,
I usually
Some of
realize
us
it right from
stubborn
the
asses.
onset, Russ.
hey, listen, anytime there's an argument in my house, I know I'm wrong. I just haven't figured out how yet. Okay. But that's what successfully married for 31 years looks like. But there's times when you're like, and then you double down, double down on your stupid, and then you double down on the stupid because and you refuse to back down. And now I can't be like, you know what? Shoot. Now that I know that, I was wrong from day one. Like, when you get people that aren't in the real estate industry, they're not thinking what's best for the real estate industry. When a company and a leader in the industry, I think there's a fiduciary responsibility to the industry as a whole also. And I think, like, listen, these guys have just breached the fiduciary responsibility to the whole industry. They have, in my opinion, done straight harm to the whole industry, period. I know, like, some of our leadership doesn't get that clear with those words. And I don't think I'm violating any rules by saying that. And I don't think I'm going to get a call from Leo like, Ross, geez, man. Like, I think they violated their fiduciary freaking responsibility to our industry to take care of the industry as a whole versus self-serving themselves at the exclusion of and the harm of the rest of the industry. They just made it harder for everybody to find properties. Agents and buyers. They just made it harder for sellers to know what the right thing to do is. Are they making it more clear? No, they're making it way more confusing. And for anybody to sit in front of a seller and try to explain to them being exclusive first is a great idea, I think that's harming a seller, period. I don't see any. Prove me wrong.
So what do you think is the fix? I've said before that I thought NAR,
Nuclear.
NAR, if you're listening.
Nuclear.
Yeah.
Would take them all out.
They were asleep at the wheel. I mean, the last 2 years.
Yeah, NAR has
all the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk smack about NAR. They do statistics really great.
I love their logo.
Their logo's fantastic. Their statistics are freaking phenomenal, second to none, right? But they've shot themselves in the foot and the head and the arm and the leg, and they continue to do that. Mostly self-inflicted damage. Some things they should have dodged instead of they stepped into, like, whoops, oh, shoot, now I'm shot in the foot. So from a NAR standpoint, have they ever really had that kind of control to tell a company that big what they can and can't do? No. Are we firing a bunch of lawsuits from this? Yeah. Is everybody finding a way to sue everybody else? Yeah. Did we drop the ball in not blocking the first one, which didn't make sense? Yeah. Now the others, now everybody's going, well, no, but the buyers are actually the ones paying the commission. So the buyers are the really ones getting screwed. So now there's a lawsuit saying the buyers are the ones that are getting screwed. It's like, did we screw the sellers? Did we screw the buyers? Which one is it? Well, we just sued you for screwing the sellers, and now we're going to screw you for selling the buyers. Like, did we really screw everybody? No, it's not the case. It's like, did we force their hand? No. Do you have to pay for play? Yeah. Should you have an agent work for you for free? No, that doesn't make sense. Lawyers don't work for me for free either. And by the way, we had a lawsuit over 3% commissions on average, plus or minus, subject to negotiation. They were always negotiable, by the way. Have you ever had an attorney? I have 3 times, right? I've gotten hit in a vehicle 3 times. I got hit in vehicle twice that I need an attorney. They charged me 33%. And by the way, I didn't feel that was negotiable either. Like, I didn't think like, you know what? I could negotiate this down to 20. That never even occurred to me because I didn't know that was even an option. So should we have a lawyer sue all the lawyers for doing to us what we did to somebody else? We just got sued for it. Shouldn't they also? Because I don't feel like anybody believes an attorney's negotiable. Oh, wait a minute, but they work for free and they only get paid if they win the deal. Same as a real estate agent. So, I'm just a practical guy, maybe a little bit feistier on some of these items. By the way, thanks for bringing me on for this. You get me all wound up. I was super calm before I started this. But yeah, let's be real. Are we harming the industry? Yes. Are we looking out for ourselves? Yes. Are we making it better for consumers? No. We're making it harder for consumers. That's bad. Prove me wrong.
I wonder at what point some government agency steps in and goes, "This is a violation of
no, they're
free
going to
trade."
have attorneys are going to step in. The government doesn't. Yeah. The government doesn't have any idea what we're doing either. I think that's the hardest part. Like Chuck, Steve, when I talk to other people about how I talk to business owners. Always sitting in a cigar bar, talking there. What do you do? Like vice president, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh really? And they're like, I'm doing this. And they're like, and we talk about real estate, we talk about brokerage, we talk about business. I'm talking to my brother who owns an architectural firm, and he's like, you guys are all batshit crazy. Like, how are you in business at all ever? Like this makes I wouldn't even get out of bed to do business. That you guys do how many billions of dollars in commissions, and you get to keep what? Like, how do you even stay in business? And I'm like, there's the rub. Right? The whole system is set up and the agents have forced the hand of it, right? The agents keep pushing for higher and higher and higher commissions. They want to spend lower and lower dollars. They want all the bells and whistles and all the tools, but they want it for nothing. And they'll go from one brokerage and bury that brokerage, right? Because they keep pushing up higher commissions, higher commissions, higher commissions, higher commissions for the agents. They keep demanding more commissions. And at some point you got to be like, listen, guys, we could charge you less and less and less taxes, but guess what happens to your roads? The roads get worse and worse and worse and worse. The roads don't stay good or get better when you're not paying more taxes, right? So I don't like paying taxes, but I do like driving on roads that don't destroy my freaking car. Okay. So is there some necessity for it? So yeah, but the problem is the industry as a whole has cut each other's throats from day one because we're like, they're racing to the bottom. It's like, wait a minute, you could buy that for $4.29 at Walmart. We'll sell it to you for $3.99. Next thing you know, is it a race to the bottom? So I always want to be in the value game. I want to be a good deal, but a better quality, right? I want to be in a value game. I want to be a good company that helps agents sell more houses. We have so many tools to help agents sell more houses. Literally, we'll show you exactly what you need to do. We'll show you what our top people are doing. That's the way a whole university, EXP University is built, is based off of, Chuck, what are you great at? Cool. You're a top 10 in our company, which means you're top 10 you're probably top 100 in the country. What are you doing? Let's look at your playbook and build your playbook. And we'll show everybody your playbook. And then I'll teach everybody your playbook. You want to see how to do Instagram? We got a 2-hour session. Everybody on the Instagram playbooks, all of them made over 500,000 gross commission income from Instagram. Closed business, right? Not just talking about business, hypothetical business. Right. Not, yeah.
Love that.
Don't get me wound up on lead generation.
Yeah. Well, that's something we talk about on the regular as team leaders. I mean, come on, guys.
Do you know how many leads were sold to real estate agents last year?
Oh my God. Okay, hold on. 3 billion.
Estimated at 200 million.
Okay, God, yeah, sorry. Wow. That's still, I mean, that is ridiculous.
Hold on, let's do some math here. Yeah. On a normal year, there's 5.3 million homes sold, right? We know 63% of sellers choose their agent because they knew them, liked them, and trusted them. By the way, note to self, guys, if you're out there, everybody's like, where do babies come from? This is a where do babies come from a question version of a real estate business. Where do sellers come from, Russ? I'll tell you when you get a little older, Chuck. You're not old enough to understand. So now that you're old enough, finally, Chuck, I'll tell you, the sellers come from relationships, right? 63% of sellers said they chose somebody because they had a relationship with them. They knew them, liked them, trusted them. So that means if 63% of sellers, okay, so that's 5.3 million total sales, and a bunch of them went to people they knew, liked, and trusted. And by the way, a bunch of them use sphere of influence is still number one conversion. Okay. So that means, let's say on a good day, 1/4 of the sales came from leads generated online. That means let's just say there's 1 million sales left at that point. Zillow by itself sold over 17 million leads to agents for less than 1 million sales closed. So like, does this make sense? Like, agents are like, I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall. Yeah, because you got 200 million leads were sold to you goofballs who are paying for these things to get maybe closed 1 million total sales closed. It's 200. That's 200 times wasted for one closing, right? So you just got to do the math and follow the money, follow the lead. So don't do things that don't make sense. Your sphere is still your best thing, right? And that's the reason why we need to double down on sphere, double down on building relationships, double down on getting more listings. You get listings, you control the market.
Could not agree more. And you lead into our frustration is, here you go. Here's your beautiful, amazing Zillow lead ready to go. I called them once. They didn't answer.
Hey, do you know what the statistic is for how many touches it takes to actually close a deal from leads
Last
generated?
I heard, I think it was like 16 as of
it's gone up.
It's 10 to 12. 10 to 12 over 12 months is typical. It does vary on occasion depending on which lead source and so forth and so on. And are they getting leads that are people reaching out because they want something specific, or is it just people kicking tires, that kind of stuff? But by the way, agent attraction, I've done that a little bit once or twice. I tracked that myself personally. I've got my own spreadsheet for it. And we tracked every month, it was between 9.8 and 10.2 touches for that person to start saying, Russ, let's have a conversation, talk about whether this be a good fit or not. So the ones we hired on average were 9.8 to 10.2 touches, right? Leads generated online, 10 plus or minus touches over 12 months. And the same thing with, attraction stuff. So it's kind of funny how I keep saying attraction is exactly like selling houses. You add value, keep adding value over time. And eventually they're like, yeah, let's do something. Right. But the average American right now is moving. Do you know how often the average American moves? How many years?
Is it 7?
It was typically it's around 6 or 7. Do you know what it is right now?
11
plus.
Wow.
Yeah. So people are like, whoa, now part of the reason why it's getting harder. Well, you got older people that are not moving out of their houses anymore. The first time home buyer age is 40. Which means some of those people got married, have kids, and moved back in with mom and dad. So mom and dad aren't going to sell their 3,500 square foot house and downsize to 1,500 square foot for 2 reasons. One, their 3,500 square foot house is at 2.85 interest rate, 3.5 interest rate. If they sell that and downsize to a 1,500 square foot house, they pay more for the 1,500 square foot house and interest, and it costs them more dollars per month. So like, why not stay in the 3,500? Oh yeah, by the way, and Chuck moved back in and he got 2 kids with him. So they need more space, and grandparents are doing a lot more engagement with taking care of kids because moms and dads are working. Both spouses are working. Moms and moms are working. Dads and dads are working. So who's taking on some of the use and taking care of the kids? So the kids are around the grandparents' houses a lot. So that's starting to stretch it out also. And then the affordability. That's why it's moved from 26, 27 average age for first-time home buyer to 40 because of affordability. Prices spiked. And then when prices spike and interest rates go up, the amount of house you can afford is next to none. And then we've got a whole generation of kids that think they should go out of mom and dad's house. They should get their college degree. Then they go out and buy their first house, and their first house should be $550,000 next door to their mom and dad. It's like, your mom and dad, that's not their first house. You should see the shit box I bought for my first house at $57,500, by the way. I still to this day have no idea how the guy from John Adams Mortgage ever got me a mortgage for my first house in 1996. That guy was a freaking magician.
Same. Steve and I had houses basically next to each other back then too. Yeah,
listen.
Yeah.
I'm not a religious guy, but I think Jesus did my loan because he brought that thing back from the dead. He's like, this is what we call our Lazarus loan. It was dead for a couple of days, but we got it back. It might smell a little funky, but we got the deal done.
What were you doing back then in 1996?
Don't start that. You don't want to start that with me.
Yeah, I want to know.
I had 7 jobs the first year I was married. I had 4 jobs in the landscaping business, and I resigned. I quit working for 3 of them because I'd have to ride around in the back of the truck, back of the pickup truck with a trailer behind it, and the driver's smoking dope. And I'm like, back then, that was illegal. And secondly, I don't want to be in a freaking pickup truck in the back bed without a seatbelt, a helmet, and a body armor with a dude smoking weed driving the car. That's freaking nuts. So I said to the owner, I'm like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, well, then leave. I'm like, I quit. I'm out, right? Did that for 3 of them, right? So I worked in a bakery for a couple of years. I was like Great Harvest Bread Company, and then my real job that I started making decent money with, I was a licensed hairstylist. I worked in a hair salon for
I didn't
5
know
years
that.
as a pro hairstylist. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So how come it hasn't worked out? Why did you bring those skills over, Russ?
I have hair.
We have kind of the same haircut, although I don't have hair to go with it.
I cut my wife's hair yesterday, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, so my wife's been getting free haircuts. The mooch, she's been getting free haircuts off of me since we got married. Before we got married. Actually, when we went on our honeymoon, we went from Detroit down to Clearwater, Madeira Beach area, Florida, and then we found a pair of safety scissors. The only scissors we could find, safety scissors on the beach at the local CVS store or whatever. I bought a pair of safety scissors, and I cut her hair from like shoulder mid back length to like a swing bob on our honeymoon.
Wow. And that could be ground for divorce, even if it was intentional.
So, well, funny enough, while I was doing it, she's like, I feel like I'm having trouble breathing. I'm like, this haircut's not that bad. This is looking great. It's looking freaking fantastic. And she's like, no, I feel like I can't breathe. My wife had ate a mango. She's deathly allergic to mango, but she didn't know it because the first time you eat a mango doesn't bother you, right? The second time you eat a mango, if you're allergic to them, they can kill you, right? So my wife is like, no, seriously, having trouble breathing. And I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, take my flip phone, call 911, and they're like, where are you? And I'm like, I don't even know, man. I'm on my honeymoon. We just got here. My wife's turning purple. So she ended up in an ambulance on her first night of her honeymoon in Florida. She ended up in an ambulance in the hospital.
You realize I'm clipping this all on my head and like the titles and the subline for this whole podcast. We've covered some stuff here. And it started. I love that we were able to bring you to the dark and then bring you back to some happiness.
Yeah, that's how we roll, right? It's like I'm a naturally happy dude in general. I'm mostly happy. I have my days.
Let me ask you about this whole NAR settlement. Just kidding. Russ, we've taken up enough of your time. We really appreciate you dropping by.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you're just always a joy. In fact, we're going to see you next week at a little conference here in town.
Yeah.
I'll be running that thing.
I'll be in Minnesota next week. Yeah, actually, I've got to fly to Atlanta on Sunday. I'm doing an event and keynoting an event in Atlanta on Monday, and then I'm jumping on a plane Tuesday, flying to you guys in Minnesota, and we'll get to have some fun with that, and then get to show you guys some love, show Minnesota or Minneapolis people some love, and then I get to fly back home on Thursday. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun week. Looking forward to seeing you guys live and in person.
I love it. We're glad we got a couple minutes of your time before that.
Brother. Yeah, brother. Hopefully, I don't get fired for that one. Kidding. I'm kidding. All right, guys. Okay. Appreciate the way you roll. Good to see you guys.
Thanks so much.
See you. Thanks, Russ.
Woo! Whiplash. That was Russ Laggan. Wow.
He is very followable.
Yes, very. Oh, we didn't even bring up his book. Yeah. I mean, if you get a chance, listener, find his book, Be Followable. And it's all about that. It's all that energy, and it's all that just Midwestern charm that Russ brings to any subject. Russ, I've seen him speak many times. It's always on building systems. So he's really good with stats, as you heard. But it was really but it was great to get his input on all of this industry stuff going on. What was your take?
Yeah. What I like is that he's, to a large extent, unfiltered. I mean, he's about as real as they get. Didn't hold anything back, and I think he was on point with all of his insights. So I thought it was great.
I think I mentioned this at some point today, but I got to spend a week with the old EXP leadership, and in New York City, which is just a great town for walking around, eating pizza, and just getting to know them. And that's where I met Russ, and it's just he has never changed from day one, and his take on things is great. And if you watch him speak to a group, it's the exact same energy, and I haven't seen anyone mimic that level that Russ has.
Yeah, he's kind of like that old saying of put a quarter in him and just listen. And that was awesome. I want to say he's exceeded our other guests in terms of how long he stayed on. I feel blessed that he gave us as much time as he did and gave us as much insight as he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, there's always more of that coming your way here at the Accidental Realtor. We're so excited. Heading for our 13th episode, which we're going to record shortly. And we love having you guys listening. Remember, you can find us on all the places you get your podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, blah, 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 blah. You can find us. So make sure you follow us. Make sure you follow our social media on Facebook. We're the Accidental Realtor. And you can always reach out to me and Steve. So thanks for listening.
Until next time.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to Accidental Realtor. Frankly, I can't believe you made it through the whole thing. Way to go. I'm your announcer, Rusty Gatenby. Chuck has me tied up and held hostage in his basement. No kidding. Please help me. See you next time.